He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
Welcome to The Alex Marlow Show. I am Alex Marlow, and I'm glad you're here. We're going to have a really good show today because most of it, centerpiece of it, is going to be me hosting for Hugh Hewitt in the evening yesterday because this stuff is so fun. I go through clip after clip. I probably play north of a dozen clips of Democrats melting down, eating themselves alive, and revealing the entire game when it comes to the government shutdown, where they basically own up to the fact that they were causing pain and suffering and they had to stop themselves. They had to save themselves from themselves. The infighting is coming. People are coming for Chuck Schumer's head, and they got literally nothing out of it. A total W for conservatives and Republicans, and something we really needed. But working through it during the course of the live radio show was a blast. We also have some guests who joined me along the way, especially Senator Tom Cotton, who I've been trying to get on the schedule here for a while, so it was great to finally catch up with him, and definitely one of the more interesting and powerful people in Washington. So all of that to come. Before we get into it, I want to give you a few thoughts on something I did even after the show, which was going on Laura Ingram's show and watching her one-on-one with Donald Trump. I got some thoughts on that, but before we do that, I got to tell you about Preborn. You guys know how excited I am about this campaign. Thanksgiving holds so many memories. We're approaching that big holiday, the holiday that has the most participation of any American holiday. And right now, there's a girl finding out that she's pregnant. In the next couple of weeks, she's going to make a decision whether the decision is going to be, is she going to choose to give this child the opportunity to live a full, fulfilling life, or will she terminate the child? This is going to make her think, come next year, come next Thanksgiving. It's going to make her think, is this Thanksgiving about love and joy and my new baby and my new baby's first Thanksgiving, or is it going to be some haunting memory of the worst decision that she ever made? Well, there's a way to help, and that's with an ultrasound. Will she be thankful in a year from now? Could be up to you with Preborn. So what Preborn does, it provides free ultrasounds to young women in particular who are considering whether or not to choose life. They can also hear the baby's heartbeat on a heart monitor. And if you donate to Preborn, then you could, for $140, get 5 ultrasounds, $280, 10 ultrasounds. A $15,000 gift provides an ultrasound machine that can save thousands of babies for years to come. Statistically, it's over double that if a woman hears the baby's heartbeat or sees an ultrasound, she's more likely to give that baby a chance at life. I will tell you, having been through this 4 times myself, it is amongst the most profound moments of my entire life is to getting to meet your baby via the heart rate, or the heartbeat monitor via the ultrasound machine. I completely believe in this endeavor, and that's why I'm so excited about the partnership with Preborn. Remember, this is one that I sought out. I sought them out. I said, I want you guys to be a part of the Marlow Show. And so far, we're off to an amazing start because someone's already donated a $15,000 ultrasound machine in my name, which is unbelievable. It feels like such a blessing that happened. And hopefully there'll be more just like that. 833-850-BABY, 833-850-2229, or go to preborn.com/Marlow. That's preborn.com/Marlow, 833-850-BABY. 833-850-2229 or preborn.com/Marlow. So yesterday, President Trump sat down with Laura Ingraham for 30 minutes, and I watched it, and I opined on it on Fox right after. The full clip is up at Breitbart News. The first of my 2 responses is on my X account, if you guys want to check that out. But I want to warn about a couple of things, because President Trump was very relaxed. He seemed like he was having a good time. But I wanted to flag a few of his answers that I caused for concern. The first thing that he said, that he is working very hard to try to make sure that Chinese students can continue to take spots from Americans in American universities. Now, I think that this is an art of the deal type thing where he wants to use the Chinese students' access to America's higher education as a way to try to secure a rare earth deal, because I think that it's important to Xi Jinping that Chinese students can go to American universities, and as his daughter did, went to Harvard University. So I feel like that is something that he wants to preserve, and that might get us a more favorable deal when it comes to rare earths. So I do think that's what it's all about. I don't think this is a time to take Trump literally. But that said, I still don't like it. First of all, anything that takes spots from hardworking Americans who want to participate in our university system is fine with me. Second of all, anything that creates a bigger market or more competition, more demand for American degrees is just going to raise the price of those colleges. And when we talk about debt deficit, when we talk about affordability, which I will in a moment, a lot of that has to do with people taking on these student loans, which are not paying back. Most of the loans that people are taking did not mean that they ended up getting jobs that paid more money. In fact, it ends up perhaps costing them double, because not only do they have to pay for the loans, and not only are they paying the government who owns most of those loans, but they also spent 4 years or more, 5, 6 year, shout out 6 year seniors, in their early 20s, late teens, early 20s, where they should have been in apprenticeships. They should have been carving their path going forward when it comes to having skills that are actually marketable in the workplace. And instead, what they would do is they would spend the time in arrested development in university, and maybe they get a piece of paper at the end. But I'll tell you, as someone who's hired dozens and dozens of young people, I've hired people without a minute of college, and I've hired people with multiple Harvard degrees. And the thing that matters is brains and work ethic and integrity. It is not where you got the piece of paper. Now, does the Harvard degree indicate you've got the brains at least? Yeah, sure it does. So that counts as for something. But does it count for the 100, 200, 300, 400 grand that it might take in terms of borrowing to get that degree that you need to feel like you're getting where you want to go in life? Well, let's look at the system. Why is a system like this? First of all, addictive government loans, which function as a subsidy to the universities. And second of all, that there's so much foreign competition for our top schools. Now, let's talk about China in particular. Why would we continue to give our intellectual know-how, all of the knowledge that we have from these institutions that have been really the cornerstone of American academics and intellectualism over the existence of the entire country? Why would we just give that away to Chinese oligarchs because they want to buy their way in with their kids? And is a Chinese student who can pay full freight for a $70,000 a year tuition, is it a more attractive candidate or applicant for one of those spots at the school compared to, let's say, an American family that's can pay $40,000 a year or $10,000 a year? I don't know. Maybe the answer is yes, because I know that there's a lot of effort trying to squeeze every last dollar out of every possible applicant and every possible donor. And I know this, secondhand. One of our employees at Breitbart News used to work at Harvard trying to raise money. So I know how it goes over there. They're trying to get as much money as they can into the system, even though given their endowment, which is tens of billions of dollars, they don't need to charge anything. So yet they do. And so I don't trust this process. The system's not working. Our schools are getting worse as we're getting more indebted, as we're getting more divided, as we're getting, I would say, less impressive as a society. The universities are not helping. So as Charlie Kirk said, it's a college scam. Apologize to those of you watching the screen, got something in my eye. But the magic of radio on TV. The college has been a scam, and we need a reset, and we're not getting a reset if we're importing a bunch of Chinese oligarchs to take spots from Americans to keep the prices high at our universities. That said, I will add one other detail. A lot of our universities do meaningful research that is applicable. I think a lot of the research they do is a waste. I think a lot of it's cooked. I think a lot of it wouldn't check out under a lot of scrutiny. But these are big industries, and they do produce some good. And starving off the universities completely will cut into some of that. And that is a reality. And there's a lot of rich and powerful people who have spent part of their life either donating, serving on boards, or being a part of this system that does create a lot of our research into various things like biotech, things like that. And Trump's policies have been pretty devastating to that industry. And maybe Trump is thinking, well, I want to take my foot off the gas in that regard, because maybe we could potentially fall behind countries like China if we don't have the universities funded well enough so that we can continue that research. And it's very hard to know what's the truth. And for me, as someone who feels like college is mostly just a place where people unlearn the good values their parents gave them, teach them all sorts of woke nonsense, put them in massive amounts of debt, and they tend to ruin the culture of the cities in which they reside, I'm very negative on college for most people at this point. But I don't want to discount that there is a concern that if our colleges were to go away, which they won't, but then that would mean that we would lose out on some meaningful research. So it is one that the president has the unenviable task of managing. But still, I was not heartened to hear in the interview that him saying flat out, we need to have the Chinese students come in and be a part of our universities, even from China, which is just in the AI arms race that we're in. I just don't dig it. So that was not a highlight. All right. Next thing I wanted to bring up, which was I thought it was sort of profound. Trump had a line, he was gaggling, I think it was on Air Force One about a month or so back, and he said he doesn't think he's going to get to heaven. And he was kind of smiling as he said it, but I still found it very troubling and sad. And I know that there's some pretty tried and true rules on what can get you to heaven, and I'm not sure Trump has abided by all of those in his life, but I still find it a little discouraging that someone who I feel like has done so much good for so many people and has done the most good, I believe, for the last best hope on earth, the United States of America. I would hate to think that he doesn't think he's got any shot at heaven. I mean, short of, cold-blooded murdering someone, I mean, what could he have possibly done in his former life that keeps him out of the running? I would like to think that President Trump would still be in the running, and it did trouble me, but I didn't know exactly how to talk about it on the show because it's hard to tell how literal he was being, and I haven't followed around. I'm not the angel and devil on Trump's shoulders following around his whole life, seeing all the stuff he's done. Maybe he just got into more trouble than I am able to glean from where I'm at. But I feel like the amount of good he's done, I feel like if there's anyone who's been redeemed on this earth, I would hope it's Trump. I don't know. I'm not purporting to know. I'm purporting to be a theologian completely fluent in all the scripture in this regard. But I like to think of the fact that maybe Trump could make it one day. And he had really interesting response to that, saying that he was mostly joking and he was being sarcastic. And he said, you can't be sarcastic. I don't know if he was being sarcastic, but I like that he's saying so now, because I would like that for all of us to hold out hope that we are able to be saved and redeemed if we lead a good enough, a rich enough life, a meaningful enough life, even if we've made mistakes in our past. I think the vast majority of mistakes, as a Catholic, I believe you should confess them and do reconciliation. But I would like to believe that if you are repentant plus you undo your wrongs with good deeds, that there's a chance. And he said flat out, I don't think I'm going to make heaven. I found that to be very sad considering how much good he does. And I'm glad to see that if he at least is now entertaining the idea, maybe he will, maybe he's got a chance. And I hope he does. I hope he makes it. I hope Trump's there. If I get to heaven, I hope Trump's there. All right. The last one I want to bring up is one where I understand his answer. And forgive me for not having clips. I'm kind of doing this on the fly here. But he was asked about the issue of affordability. And he just said, in a nutshell, everything is going great. The economy is rip-roaring. So I'll say this. There's a lot of truth to what he's saying. There's a lot of truth to it. That said, I do feel as though it is not adequate just to say things are going great. It does harken back to a young man by the name of Joseph Robinette Biden, who insisted for years that everything was going great. And it did not work out for him and his party when it came election time, because the reality and the data suggest that things are not perfect. I think the vibes, the feel of things are people still feel like things are expensive. And it's very hard to get inflation down. And Trump has done that. He's got it down a lot. But it's very, very hard to get prices down on a lot of things. Some food, the prices have gone down. But for the most part, the target is sort of things only get inflated at a 2% target. And we haven't hit that. And it's going to be hard to hit that. So it's really important to think about that. A lot of Americans, even those who were motivated by Trump, inspired by Trump, are still feeling the pinch in a major way, and we need to outmessage the Democrats on that. I think it starts with pointing out that the reason why there's affordability crisis is with Democrats, the Bidenflation in particular, the getting addicted on taxation and debt and all the waste, all the regulation that makes it so expensive to create new building projects, all of the student loans that people are saddled with. I think all of these are the start of why things feel unaffordable. The fact that our cities, with a lot of them which reside in blue areas, areas are so expensive. A lot of that has to do with the mass importation of immigrants. It has to do with high taxation. It has to do with all sorts of different factors that make it expensive to live in America at this time. Our mishandling of trade, our outsourcing of way too much overseas. So many things I think factor in. And we could do a whole 45 minutes on all the various factors. But overall, we need to start by blaming the Democrats. I've never said that before. We need to start by blaming the Democrats. Absolutely, that's where it begins. But then we need to out-message them because they've already got a message. Mamdani test drove it. It's hope. They're just going to say, we got hope. We got hope. And then we're going to give you handouts. We're going to give you free stuff. We're going to give you free busing. We're going to give you free food, whatever it is. So it is imperative upon us to not just announce everything is great, but to show that we're taking meaningful strides to make things more affordable for Americans. Now, Trump is trying that, his 50-year mortgage, which I touched on with Congressman Comer yesterday. Really important interview. I hope all of you caught that in yesterday's podcast. Really, really a lot of bombshells in that from Congressman Comer. He was talking about his investigations into the Joe Biden auto pen. So he's saying that Biden didn't have any meetings or notes on the auto pen pardons, which suggests that he wasn't even the one doing them. Crazy stuff. But he pointed out that the 50-year loan that Trump is proposing, the 50-year mortgage, well, it's probably not going to be a bank product. It's probably going to be a government product, which means more of the borrowing from the government and you paying interest to the government for who knows how long. And why do 50 years? Why not make it 100? Isn't this a slippery slope? Why not do 200? I think there are 100-year leases for commercial products, for commercial, property, things like that. So why not do 100-year? Why not do 1,000? Just like why stop at 50? And all it's going to mean is less money goes to the principal and more is going to go to the interest. And the interest is going to be held by the government. So it's another way of the government. Basically, it's sort of socialist in a way. I love the idea of people being able to get into homes. I think that getting into homes is a good thing. I think it's a good thing for the soul. I think it's probably a good thing for people in general. I think they keep their homes nicer than their apartments. I think people, treat their purchase cars better than lease cars, better than rental cars. I do think people are like that in a way. But let's not miss out on the fact that this is another way of us becoming being preyed on by our government. And maybe it's worth it for some people who act responsibly. It'll certainly raise the value of my home, which is a small benefit to me. But I'm skeptical of it. But I'm like that Trump is solution focused. He's trying to come up with answers. I just am not convinced that I've seen a lot of answers to the affordability issue. And that is where I really want to make sure that we're locked in. We've got 1 year to outmessage the Democrats on affordability. Starts with holding the Democrats accountable for the Bidenflation, for their excessive deficit spending, and their immigration policies, all of which have led to things being less affordable in this country. However, we got to do something proactive too, and we got to show that we are taking positive strides. Deregulation seems like a big one. We got to make sure the economy's thriving, so there's a lot of good job growth. That's a big one. But we've got to come up with ways, and it starts now. And Trump just saying things are great is not good enough. So that's it. He's just getting started on it, and it does seem like he's in good spirits. And when he's lively and in good spirits, then good things happen. All right, let me tell you about Call Sign Courage. It's a new movie that's coming out, and it's about Space Force Commander Matt Lohmeyer. He's the one who blew the lid off the military's DEI agenda. He saw how Marxist messaging, critical race theory, and rampant DEI training was changing the culture of the military. It's a really, really important story here. Suddenly, everyone was equal. They'd stripped any merit-based selection and promotions. And the lack of accountability, competency, and effectiveness had actually become a domestic threat. He spoke up how it was tearing apart the military and their unity, their readiness, and the whole reason why we have a military in the first place. Lethality. The ability to fight and win wars. Such an important concept. I spoke about this in a speech, that we are not framing it up as we need to win the wars we're fighting. We're not just fighting to a ceasefire. We got to fight to win. So he spoke up how it was tearing a military apart, and they broke into his home. He was spied on and threatened, but Lohmeyer didn't back down. So career officers kicked him out. Then President Trump made him Undersecretary of the Air Force so he could solve the problems. When the stakes were high, this is the guy who stood up. So The story, his story, Call Sign Courage, the Matt Lohmeyer story. You can watch it and buy it on DVD. And check this out. In the family, salemnow.com. Salemnow.com, Call Sign Courage, the Matt Lohmeyer story. I don't know why you'd miss it. All right, let's get into last night, hosting the Hewitt Show, real-time reaction to the Democrats melting down because of the shutdown, plus Tom Cotton and more. Here it is.
In a time of division and distrust, clarity matters more than ever. This is where common sense meets conviction. This is the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Morning glory, evening grace, everyone. My name's Alex Marlow. I'm the host of the Alex Marlow Show on the Salem News Channel, Salem Podcast Network, and the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, as well as the author of Hugh Hewitt's new favorite book, Breaking the Law, which is out now and very relevant. I will tell you, Dwayne, you'll get a kick out of this. One of my favorite sections in the book is a mini profile of Mike Roman, one of the gentlemen who was just pardoned last night by President Trump, who unleashed a flurry of pardons. Some people I like, some people I don't like, a lot of people I'd never heard of, but Trump's pardoning them all because he's trying to get some justice for all of those people who were politically persecuted for various non-crimes that they may have committed trying to work and do good things for President Trump. But one of the guys, Mike Roman, one of the top researchers in America who won the Georgia case for President Trump, and I explain all that in the book. And I was very excited about that, and that's probably my only excuse to talk about it today because it is a monster news day with the government taking the first steps to reopen. And ladies and gentlemen, this is good news for the Hewitt audience, the Marlow audience, the Salem audience, because it is a full-fledged cave. The Democrats completely gave in. Now, they waited until they had a pretty good week last week, and it was kind of a sad boy show on Friday. And thank you, as always, to Hugh for having me fill in. Very nice to be in his shoes and in his captain's chair for the day, and worth the very long drive to and from northern LA County down to lovely Orange County to be here. But this is a good one. This is going to be a fun day, and we've got a lot in store for you. Senator Cotton will join me. Vic Mattis will join me, fan favorite. And then I'm going to play for you something that'll be a world exclusive on the Hewitt Show. I sat down this morning with Congressman James Comer for over half an hour, and the first place any of you will be able to hear it will be on the show in the third hour. Of course, we touch on the shutdown, his auto pen investigation, and everything in between. We'll touch on the 50-year mortgage that's been proposed by President Trump. But the bottom line is the Senate is now taking the first steps to end the government shutdown, with Democrats agreeing to proceed even without a guaranteed extension of the Obamacare subsidies, which is going to, or it already has, angered many in their caucus. And even though they have a commitment, there'll be some sort of a vote on it, but that was inevitable. There was always going to be a vote on extension of subsidies. And I will say that even though on an economic front and a liberty front, I don't like any of these subsidies, on a political front, Republicans it's in their best interest to consider what to do because healthcare is one of the most complicated issues, as anyone in this show knows. And the solutions are never easy, and a lot of the best solutions on paper are complete suicide politically. So we were always going to have that debate anyway. And so that was really the only commitment that Republicans gave these Democrats, is they will get to have that debate and eventually we'll get to have a vote. But overall, this is a cave and everyone knows it. And I'll just say before we roll into clips, and producer Dwayne has dutifully pulled 30 clips. We will not get to all 30. We'll play a lot of these, but I love that. This is a great Dwayne day. I could feel Dwayne's excitement from the road while I was driving down for a show like this. This is
a producer's dream day. Yes, absolutely.
It is, absolutely. And it's one of these days where the left will speak for themselves. But just note this is my biggest insight that I can offer here, that the same exact people who had accused the Republicans of keeping the government shut down and saying it was the Republicans who were depriving people of their SNAP benefits and of air traffic control and of military pay, it's going to be those exact same people who are mad at their fellow Democrats for reopening the government and making sure all those checks come in. So that's where we're at. And I'm told that we've got some limitations on what to play at the top, but we're just going to cut straight to the chase, start getting some reactions here. And let's go to cut 8 with Mark Kelly running to MSNBC's Chris Jansen.
I wonder if, as a result, you believe Chuck Schumer's leadership is in jeopardy, and should it be?
Well, as I've said, Chris, we are dealing with an irrational president.
I know people are frustrated.
Okay, pause.
People can
Okay,
be frustrated.
come on.
I know, right? I mean,
Is his leadership in jeopardy? Look at the time. I got to get going here. Dwayne?
it's just spectacular. And he dodges twice, he dodges a third time, and he's exasperated to even be there.
And then he's on Trump right away. He's right there back on Trump. Let's roll the rest of it.
With leadership in the Senate and the House. I'm frustrated with the White House and a president. I mean, he filed a lawsuit to keep kids from getting SNAP benefits, taking away food from kids for leverage. I mean, that's who the American people should be really upset with and frustrated with, is the guy in the White House.
Yeah, honestly, it's all Trump's fault. Trump did this, even though the government's open now and all those SNAP benefits can come back. So it's just the incoherence of it. This is where I do envy the Democrats, is they have this ability to lie. And then they have this ability to not lose elections after blatantly lying to people. As our friend and colleague Dennis Prager has often said, truth is not a left-wing value. Could you sum that up even better than that clip? I mean, that clip just reflects it. It's all Trump's fault, even though the Republicans and now some new Democrats voted to restore the exact things he said were being withheld. So it's just unbelievable disingenuousness. And I'll play more from Kelly, but I should mention who were the senators who caved. And we're going to have to do some – I'm good at watching clock, but we might have to watch clock today because this is too exciting. It's just too much fun. Angus King, independent from Maine. John Fetterman, Democrat from Pennsylvania, who we know is a no-brainer. Catherine Cortez Masto, Democrat from Nevada. Jackie Rosen of Nevada. Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire. Dick Durbin, that's the surprising one in the list to me. In Illinois. Gene Shaheen, New Hampshire, not a surprise there. Tim Kaine, Virginia, not a huge surprise. But what's interesting here, that Dwayne is dutifully noted here in the notes, none of these people are up for primaries in they're not going to get primaried in 2026. No. So they're not in this election cycle. They're either retiring or they're at least an extra election cycle away. And a lot of them are up in 28, which means they could ride coattails of a left-wing candidate. So they're on safe territory. In fact, it's politically reasonable.
I wrote 3 weeks ago that Dick Durbin was likely to cave because he's retiring, and he gives political cover being the Democrats' number 2. And he's impervious. It doesn't matter what the fever swamp does to him. He's done. He's checked out. He's done.
Yeah, that's really interesting. He also, though, I'm still surprised, though, Dwayne, that he is retiring because he's hitting he just hit 80, which is usually that's where peak performance kicks in for Democrat lawmakers, is once they crest over 80, that's where the height of their powers really manifests, and they can really do the good that they've been waiting to do for the previous 40 years they've been in elected office. But really noteworthy. All right, Mark Kelly, let's play some more. Let's play cut 9, please.
There's a lot of frustration out there among rank-and-file Democrats about the strategic way this was handled. So let me ask you very directly, do you support Chuck Schumer to lead Senate Democrats going forward?
So, Chris, again, we found ourselves in a situation.
I got to give a shout out to Chris Jansing, who's not great, but I'll tell you, we have a mutual friend who's a wonderful person. It makes me think she can't be totally insane. And that was great because you recall the first question that I played 5 minutes ago. And Kelly does not answer, makes it about Trump, hems and haws. I don't think he's particularly bright, Kelly. That's one of the things about astronauts is it's one of those professions where I don't think you can tell. I think we assume they're all geniuses, but they might not all be geniuses. Some of them might be geniuses, but some of them might just be really sturdy, robust. And
there
ambitious.
Literally was a monkey that was sent to space.
Yeah, we're not talking about Mark Kelly. Like, we're talking about a different guy. Okay, got it. Just make it. He's not a monkey. The media matters. I'm making a joke. All right, let's continue.
I don't think the Senate has found itself in before. I think under any president, Democrat or Republican, they're going to care about the American people's health care and care if they're going to be able to put food on the table and try to bring down costs, not do the opposite for the American people. So when I hear folks say things like that, I understand their frustration. But I also hope they understand that we all need to be on the same team here And what matters at this point is restoring these tax credits if we can do it in December. And we're going to work really, really hard.
All right. So we got to take a break. We come back. Well, let's see if Chris Jansing makes me look good and continues to press him for not answering the super simple question. Why would he even show up and put himself in front of a camera and go on TV if he wasn't going to answer this question? This was obviously the question. Let's see what happens next on the Hugh Hewitt Show with me, Alex Marlow. All right, Alex Marlow, host of the Alex Marlow Show podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Like and subscribe, YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, whatever's your favorite, or all the above, all good. Editor-in-Chief of Breitbart News, in for Hugh, and I'm about to do the easiest read I've ever done for Hugh, besthotgrill.com, because it's a product I actually use. So you've heard Hugh talk about the good folks at besthotgrill.com. They also make the best gas logs for your fireplace. If you're still burning wood or your old gas log is overdue for a makeover, Rasmussen Gas Logs has a new look for you. They have many finishes, including detailed bark, fresh split, weathered driftwood, that sounds good, and white birch. For rooms with modern or contemporary design, don't use a rustic log set. Check out Rasmussen's popular fireballs to keep your fireplace appearance in alignment with the room's decor. Fireplace is the focal point of every room, so you want a Rasmussen gas log set or fireballs that look great with the fireplace and even better when the flame is on. Yeah, this is a lot of the old timey gas logs look terrible, so it's good. They got an updated look here. Get a free personalized log set, sizing recommendation, more information at the USA-made Rasmussen gas logs and Solaire infrared grills at besthotgrill.com. That's besthotgrill.com. American-made Rasmussen gas logs and Solaire infrared grills at besthotgrill.com. I'm a Solaire infrared grill owner. I'm looking at my exact model there on the screen, those of you who are watching. So highly recommend it. It gets hot. It cooks your food fast, gets that nice sear. Are you a steak guy, Dwayne?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a steak guy. I've got one of these as well, and it does get hot. It gets redder and hotter faster than blue sky after last night's vote.
That's really funny. That's funny. That is a very subtle segue to get back to work, Marlow. Let's talk about the news here. All right. It's not just the char that you get on your steak. The crust, they call it. All right. I want to let's play some hostage videos. So some of these Democrats, I listed the 7 for you: King, Fetterman, Cortez Masto, Rosen, Hassan, Durbin, Shaheen, and Tim Kaine, voting to reopen the government. And inevitably, we were going to get some good hostage videos, right? Of them trying to explain themselves. These are going to be high energy, I'm sure. Let's play Dick Durbin, cut 17.
After lengthy negotiations, an agreement was reached with the Republican Senate leader, John Thune. We will agree to open the government until January 30th, 2026. During that time, we will pass 3 bipartisan appropriation bills that will fully fund SNAP, WIC, and all the veterans programs, and finish our work on the remaining spending bills for this fiscal year.
This is just red hot content right here. Dwayne, pause. I gotta.
It's a hostage video.
I gotta say that honestly, he would look no different if there was a gun in his back. Right? He probably would be more enthusiastic if he'd fake it a little bit better.
Right.
And also him saying all these programs that we were just told Republicans were blocking them.
Yeah, funny that. Isn't that something that all of a sudden he's agreeing with the very premise that the Democrats said they were blaming on the Republicans?
It's so interesting because we just talked past each other for a month and a half, and it's just then we're exactly here, exactly where we thought we'd be. All right, go on some more. Give me some more.
Firings during the shutdown and prevent future ones through January 30th. We credit Senator Kaine of Virginia for this provision. Leader Thune has also promised the Democrats an opportunity before mid-December to present a Democratic bill on the floor with proposals to change the law and protect American families from dramatic health care premium increases. It is my fervent hope that this ends up being a bipartisan effort. It would be such an achievement of the Senate to finally return to that status. I've served in the Senate for 29 years, and I've never seen that kind of offer from a Senate majority. During the historic roll call last night, I walked across the aisle and met with Senator John Thune, the Republican leader. I told him that I was counting on him to keep his word on this agreement. He assured me he would. The fate of this effort depends on both the Senate and the House of Representatives.
He's not talking about anything. He's just talking about they're going to get a vote. They're going to have a discussion about stuff they're already scheduled to discuss. So he's got nothing. And could you imagine if you're a citizen of Illinois, how inspiring that could be for you to have such a leader such as Dick Durbin? He's reading from a paper. You can't help but wonder, what is he even thinking about? Is he even present on a mental level? I don't know. All right, let's play some of Tim Kaine. Do you have a preference between these two you got for me, Dwayne?
The first one.
Let's do that.
Joining us now,
Morning Joe.
Democratic Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. He is one of the Democratic senators who voted yesterday in favor of a deal that could reopen the government this week. Senator Kaine, thank you as always for joining us this morning. I want to ask you this to start. We've been talking all morning. There are a lot of Democrats very unhappy with this decision. Reverend Al Sharpton was just saying that he's heard from a number in the party as well. So let's start there. What is your message to Democrats today who feel like, hey, we were winning the politics of this shutdown fight?
Already he clearly there's no one. He doesn't have Jasmine Crockett's team because like the haircut is just completely all over the map. I'm fine with the gray hair, let's be honest, but he's all over the map. Definitely not one to hit the gym, but I just can't. Whenever I see Tim Kaine, I always wonder if you could poll Americans who pay attention to politics, how many of them remember that he was recently the Democrat nominee for vice president? That happened recently. In the last decade, he was the nominee for vice president. Is there someone who could achieve that level of notoriety in American politics and still walk through an airport without a single person recognizing him? I don't think there is. I think he's the guy. He was
the Tim Walz of Al Gore's.
He's even less memorable than Walz because Walz had all those awkward moments. Like Walz cut a very sort of neutral figure initially, but when you got to know him, he did have some wacky ideas, some wacky hand gestures, and he did give a good speech. He had a great convention speech, Tim Walz did. It was the one thing that he did right, but Tim Kaine is just nothing about it was memorable at all. All right, let's play some more.
Trump's on his heels for the first time in this term. Why make a deal now?
Well, look, I was voting with the Democrats for about 40 days as I was campaigning around Virginia trying to help engineer a big electoral win last Tuesday that went well. But when I got here after that election, it's like, okay, we're nearing 40 days in, and where are we? And here's where we were. No path to fix the Affordable Care Act with the government shut because the Republicans said we won't even talk about it until you open the government. And SNAP recipients, 45 million having their benefits cut with even the contingency fund about to run out. That's where we were. No path to an ACA fix.
Pause. That is literally that last 25 seconds. That is word for word what a Republican would say. We're not going to negotiate Obamacare until the government's open, and the SNAP benefits are not coming back unless the government's open. So you guys got to vote to open it. We're voting to open it. It's exactly verbatim Republicans were saying 40 days ago.
It's not his fault because he was out campaigning the last 40 days and he just got back from Northern Virginia.
That's it. He just got back from the 45-minute drive in. Go ahead.
SNAP recipients suffering and a whole lot of other problems. So what did we get? What we ended up getting is we fixed SNAP, full year funding, robust funding, undoing some of the damage that the reconciliation bill did to SNAP recipients. And we are on a path, not a guarantee, but a path to a major floor fight in the U.S. Senate about fixing the ACA without the background noise of all of the shutdown consequences drowning out that existential fight. And I got one more thing. I demanded that the White House give some protection to federal employees. So I got them to agree. All the furloughed employees come back with back pay. All the recently RIFed employees.
Okay, but they're going to do that anyway because we're not politically suicidal. It's just nothing. They got nothing, and we're having a good time on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Alex Marlow back with more of the fiery Democrats mad at each other when we return. Alex Marlow in for Hugh, reporting live from a train wreck, a figurative train wreck, though, and that is with the Democrat Party, who don't know what to make of the fact that 7 of their colleagues voted with Republicans to reopen the government, and they've done it by getting nothing. They got nothing in return, so everything we've been told over the last 40 days is a total lie, and we can't let them forget that. They lied to us for 40 days as they kept the government closed, and then lo and behold, they were the ones who opened it, and they got nothing in return, and we should hang that around their neck, figuratively speaking, for a long time. More in a second, but first, President Trump is doing what no other president has done before. He's holding Big Pharma accountable for ripping off the American people. But Big Pharma and its army of lobbyists are working overtime to keep Americans paying the world's highest prescription drug prices. They've already hiked prices on hundreds of medicines this year while flooding us with billions in misleading ads for drugs that we may not need. Worse yet, Big Pharma pushes government mandates designed to stack the deck in their favor. The goal in Washington is simple: escape accountability, block free market competition, and jack up outrageous prices. That means more government intrusion, bigger profits for them, and higher costs for families and businesses. Conservatives for Lower Health Care Costs warns the Big Pharma agenda would stick Americans and employers with billions in higher premiums and drug costs. President Trump isn't backing down. His administration is cracking down on drug companies that gouge Americans and mislead patients with obnoxious advertising. Meanwhile, conservatives in Congress are introducing reforms to stop Big Pharma's gains that block generics, and keep prices high. Join us in rejecting Big Pharma's agenda. Visit pharmawindfall.com today. That's pharmawindfall.com today to help lower drug prices. All right, Dwayne, we're going to right into it with the clips. I've been resisting this for a half an hour, and that's all I can do. We got to hear from some of the Democrats melting down. Let's hear from the independent Bernie Sanders, who had pinned the Democrat Party on him. Cut 18.
Tonight, 8 Democrats voted with the Republicans to allow them to go forward on this continuing resolution. And to my mind, this was a very, very bad vote. What it does, first of all, is it raises health care premiums for over 20 million Americans by doubling, and in some cases tripling or quadrupling. People can't afford that when we are already paying the highest prices in the world for health care. Number 2, it paves the way for 15 million people to be thrown off of Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Studies show that will mean that some 50,000 Americans will die every year unnecessarily.
Okay, pause. So far he's accusing Democrats of killing 50,000 Americans a year. And just the optics of how he's walking towards the camera while he talks about the oligarchy and walks towards the camera and moving his hands side to side, because if you move your hands side to side, it means you know what you're talking about. Who is this? I guess it convinces some people. Some people really like this guy.
Is that a geriatric 6'7" thing?
Yeah, that is a 6'7". That's what it is. It's the. By the way, this cut was mislabeled. You should have labeled it cut 6'7". You labeled it cut 18. All right, let's continue.
All of that was done to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1%. As everybody knows, just on Tuesday, we had an election all over this country. And what the election showed is that the American people want us to stand up to Trumpism, to his war against working class people, to his authoritarianism. That is what the American people wanted. But tonight, that is not what happened. So we've got to go forward, do the best that we can to try to protect working class people, to make sure that the United States not only does not throw people off of health care, but ends the absurdity of being the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people. We got a lot of work to do. But to be honest with you, tonight was not a good night. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Bernie. It's so disingenuous. Just goes back to all those generic talking points about how bad this country is. All right, so Julie Rodzinski, who was you guys probably recognize her from Fox. She's been on MSNBC a lot. She gives a lot of fiery political commentary. I know we're not going to get through the whole thing, but let's play cut 32. Let's start this cut.
Let's go back, Julie, to what we heard from Bernie Sanders, which is you're going to throw maybe 15 million people off health care, according to a study. 50,000 Americans may die as a result of being uninsured. There's probably 20 million who will see at least a doubling of their premiums. It's going to be not just people on ACA, but also Medicaid. So is the option for Democrats either, at least some Democrats, either You know that the Republicans may take the blame for this, or you continue to let people not get paid and people who need help get help.
This is going to be clumsy, but let's pause it. Her reaction's unbelievable. It's very clarifying. You guys are not going to want to miss it, but we do have to pay some bills first. When we come back, you're going to hear what the Democrats actually accomplished from a less partisan person here. It's going to come in and lay it out exactly all they got for all this. And I'll give you a hint. It may or may not be nothing. That will be the gist of it. Hugh Hewitt Show. Marlow's in. Right back. All right, Alex Marlow here, editor-in-chief of Breitbart News for Hugh Hewitt, and glad to be here. Right before the break, I started a clip on MSNBC where a pundit was being teed up to comment on how the Democrats basically abandoned all the things they hold dear by caving to the Republicans completely and voting to open the government. Julie Roginski, I should get that pronunciation right. I'm supposed to be a professional here. Let's play the rest.
I mean, it's such a Rubik's Cube of ridiculousness.
I mean, listen, I've run campaigns many times in my life, and you plan for contingencies. And what I don't understand is what these members or these senators planned for, right? They should have planned for this alternative because they would have known that Donald Trump does not care, as you point out. So what was the point of inflicting all of this pain? What was the point of doing any of this if they weren't going to go through with it? And look, the reality is Bernie Sanders is absolutely right. Their own constituents, and I don't mean the Democrats' own constituents, I mean Mike Johnson, who by percentage represents part of a state that has the second highest number of people on Obamacare, on the ACA, who need these subsidies desperately, right? Who has SNAP, these are people who desperately need SNAP benefits. They're hurting their own constituents, and yet
this is very well said, and you just wonder how Democrats. The last part I will note that's obviously debatable, but Democrats want to talk about health care whenever possible because they feel like they can out-message us on it. But this was the thing that I think those of us in top radio world were discussing the whole time. It's like, where are they actually going with this? Because eventually they're going to have to open it up. They have no leverage. Trump can just continue to do the parts of the agenda that he can, and they just sit there and do nothing. And obviously Trump is going to be able to win that messaging war considering how discredited the media is. It was completely discredited after the way it handled the election in 2020 and 2024, and then particularly after the way they tolerated just these insane, vile individuals who were besmirching Charlie Kirk and his institution and his family in the aftermath of his assassination. After that, the media trust is zero. So, of course, whoever had the agenda, whoever was able to act more on it, which was Donald Trump, was going to win this thing in the end. So were they not prepared for this at all? They have no message that they can put out there now other than that we're going to get a vote on stuff that we were going to get a vote on before. It's just both sides look so bad. They look so bad. Both sides of the Democrat party. The Republicans all look good today, but the Democrats just look terrible because the base got nothing, so they lost. And those who voted to cave, they don't have any message to put out to their constituents.
And media who claim that this was all a Republican shutdown.
Where did they go?
She just admitted that it was their plan. It was the Democrats' plan to inflict pain.
Yes, that's right. The Democrats were the ones who were inflicting the pain. Everyone knew it was the Democrats, and yet they said, well, we'll just blame it on the Republicans because it's worked in the past. But that was pre-Donald Trump, certainly pre-Charlie Kirk assassination. That type of stuff is just not going to go with the American people anymore. You have to be a deeply committed – you have to be a J. Jones voter, not just a Democrat voter, but a guy who will vote for a Democrat who fantasizes about dead Republican children. You have to be that level of partisan to not see through this thing. And even then, I think the smart people always saw it. We got more from her. Let's play the other clip we got here, 31.
Should Chuck Schumer go?
And yet, yes, Chuck Schumer should go. I'm sorry to say Chuck Schumer should go. I voted for him many times. I am ideologically quite aligned with where he is as a senator, but he's no longer capable of running this caucus. He's no longer capable of leading the Democratic Party. I am I am an establishment Democrat, and I'm here to say that Bernie Sanders is much more in line with where I and many other Democrats are today than Chuck Schumer is. And if you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I would have laughed at you. So that just to underscore exactly how furious how furious
you bring popcorn?
Democrats are today for putting.
See, what people are missing here is that she's actually, you can see her hand slide her business card across the table with a note that says, "Get this to AOC right now. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to campaign for you. Baby, we're going all the way. We're taking out Schumer together." This is the thing that Schumer, it felt like his only move to avoid an AOC primary was to go in on the shutdown. And then now where is he? Now he's just a loser and he's still going to get primaried. So that's where I feel like I used to respect the Democrats more. And now I've lost respect for them because I used to feel like they've worked out these calculations ahead of time. And now I don't. I think they really are winging it. They're not good chess players anymore. They're really playing checkers. All right. I got some Chris Murphy. Let's get into some of this. Cut 19, please. One of the most loudmouth senators there is. Let's see what he's got to say.
The vote hasn't closed, but it looks like 8 Democrats have joined Republicans to vote for a temporary reopening of the government for about 2 months, but a bill with no protections to stop the coming healthcare disaster in this country caused by Donald Trump's premium increases, nor any provisions to meaningfully stop Trump's corruption and his illegality. You can see how tired I am. I've been here all weekend. I've been working throughout the past few weeks to try to prevent this moment. After the elections on Tuesday, it just became absolutely clear that the American people do not want Democrats to be bullied into submission. They want Democrats to fight for their health care. They want Democrats to fight Trump's illegality. Bullies gain power when righteous people yield in the face of their wrongdoing. I didn't want this shutdown. I want it to end, but not at any cost. And of course, I wish that there was a path to saving this democracy and saving people's health care that didn't involve pain. This shutdown hurt.
The subtext of all this is that his own buddies were the ones who voted for this. Like, we were just lied about this whole thing for 40 days and 40 nights. And we were told about that it was really the Republicans who were stopping all this stuff. And then 7 Democrats said, actually, Senator Murphy, you're wrong. You're the one playing politics. I can't resist mentioning with this guy, because I don't have a chance to do it enough, that he left his family and entered a romantic relationship with this woman, Tara McGowan, who runs the Courier newsroom, which is literal fake news. It's actually a fake news enterprise. I wrote about it in my first book, Breaking the News, was a very successful book. And I looked into Courier Newsroom, which is funded by Laureen Powell Jobs, who owns The Atlantic, the Emerson Collective, and all sorts of Democrat, parts of the Democrat superstructure, both in terms of media and politics. She funds all sorts of candidates. She's very close friends, if not best friends, with Kamala Harris. She's one of the main villains in the institutional left beyond George Soros. She might arguably the number 2 most prominent donor. And she has this thing called Courier Newsroom, which the whole design is to get fake left-wing Democrat talking points into your feeds, particularly on Facebook and other social media, with fake news, but it's really Democrat talking points. So you click on something and you think it's a news item. It's not. It's actually just Democrat talking points. And he left his family for this person who spends all day manipulating Democrat voters with fake news. So that's the type of leader the Democrats are elevating right now. And he had a big sad last night. And I'm glad he just had the time to record that video for us to use on the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm Alex Marlow. We'll be right back with more Chris Murphy and then some. Fun day to have a microphone. So thanks to Hugh Hewitt for lending it to me. Alex Marlow here. We're playing a very tired Senator Chris Murphy, who is just exhausted because he's been fighting for you, the American people, for 40 days and 40 nights, and he did not win this one. So let's hear him continue to explain what's going on, Mr.
Did. But unfortunately, I don't think there is a way to save this country, to save our democracy, without there being some difficult, hard moments along the way.
Pause. We can't save this country unless we Democrats, who completely lost power, get our way every time without any exceptions whatsoever. It's so idiotic. It's just, I'm stunned that people still, that's why last Friday on our show together, that's why I was so troubled by it. It's that the people still vote for people like Jay Jones fantasizing about murdering Republicans. That's what's so disturbing to me, because I find this so unbelievably unpersuasive. Even if you didn't agree with his politics, it's so unpersuasive. Give me some more, Dwayne.
Came out on Tuesday in huge numbers. And yes, it was a referendum on Trump, but it was also a referendum on us. And I think there's going to be a lot of very angry people out there in this country. I know there will be a lot of angry people out there in this country, having watched.
Pause. He's trying to cry. He's trying to summon the tears. Can he do it? Can he get the tears going? And it's going to be a race to the finish. Because
dear God, can't he have a staffer get him an onion?
Someone start meatloaf prep right now. We got to get this thing going. No, he's trying to get the waterworks going, but he's only got 70 seconds because for the TikTok audience, that's all the time they got. Okay, a little more.
Let's join with Republicans. And we still have fights ahead where we've got to be able to unite as Democrats. This won't be the only consequential moment between now and next November. But there's no way to defend this. And you are right to be angry about it. I'm angry about it. And I'm just going to get up tomorrow and go to work to try to convince all of my colleagues that this is a unique moment and the necessity to stand and fight, even when it's hard, even when it involves pain, is necessary, more necessary today than at any point during any of our.
So painful to talk about things that will never happen on MSNBC. That is the definition of a painful job. And Chris Murphy's got it. Look, these people should bring more to the table than what they're doing. And they're very vulnerable politically. I spent a lot of Friday's show very negative on how Republicans are doing, but the opportunity is so wide for us. It's so vast because we're not up against any significant talent. They're fighting amongst themselves, which is glorious. That's usually us. We're usually in this position. We have been lately. We got to cut that out, and we got to unite and understand that these people are very vulnerable. They have no message. They're not persuasive when they try to deliver the message. They do the fake crying, the fake tiredness, and they're not offering anything to the public other than we're going to debate healthcare. Okay? All right. We should come up with a retort to that. But other than that, we get a lot of running room here as a conservative movement. And that's why we're standing united here at the Hugh Hewitt Show. I'm Alex Marlow. We'll be back with more of this next hour, plus Senator Cotton, Vic Mattis, a lot to come on Hugh Hewitt Show today with me, Alex Marlow. This is the Hugh Hewitt Show. My name's Alex Marlow, the host of the Alex Marlow Show podcast on the Salem Podcast Network and the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News. Glad to be yet again back in for my friend Hugh. And it's sort of a party show today. A lot of good news. Today was a sad boy show on Friday. It was still good. So I like the sad boy show sometimes. It's nice to be on the air when there's tough news to deal with. But today has been a positive day because we've got it's 8 Democrats who joined Republicans. And I said 7 earlier. That's fake news. We're going to have to do a correction from earlier in the show. 8 Democrats have voted to join Republicans and reopen the government. Remember, it was the Democrats who insisted on keeping the government closed. They had ample opportunity to vote to open it. They never took it or offered anything reasonable as a compromise to Republicans. So we got the 7 plus Angus King. Angus King, technically an independent, though he caucuses with the Democrats. Fetterman, Cortez Masto, Rosen of Nevada, Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire, Dick Durbin, Jeanne Shaheen, Tim Kaine all voted with Republicans, and they are going to be opening up the government. Eventually, we'll look at the exact package, and I'm sure he will have a great breakdown for you when that comes out, and we'll get some details from Senator Cotton here next segment. But we're trying to make heads or tails of what this means and where we go from here, and I think there is a monster opportunity here for Republicans, monster opportunity to pin something on Democrats. I will tease that for a second because at first I want to share some audio with you. This is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson declaring victory, and I think he usually finds the right words for such situations. So let's play cut 6.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very thankful to see you all this morning. I'm thankful to welcome you to what appears to be the beginning of the end of the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, as shameful as that is. I don't think it's coincidental, you know how I think, but it's after 40 days of wandering in the wilderness and making the American people suffer needlessly, some Senate Democrats finally have stepped forward to end the pain. It appears to us this morning that our long national nightmare is finally coming to an end, and we're grateful for that. At least some Democrats now finally appear ready to do what Republicans and President Trump and millions of hardworking American people have been asking them to do for weeks. But as we said from the beginning, the people's government cannot be held hostage to further anyone's political agenda. That was never right. And shutting down the government never produces anything. It never has, if you study history. And so here we are.
That's right. They held the line and it worked out. This doesn't always work out for Republicans, so I am heartened to see that happened this time. But here is where I feel like the Democrats are caught into a corner. I want to play Jeanne Shaheen, who was one of those Democrats from New Hampshire who voted to reopen the government. Let's play cut 13.
One of the Democrats who voted yes last night, Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire, joins us now. Senator, good morning. Thank you for being with us. Let's just start with asking you to explain your vote. Why did you feel like this was the moment to cast your ballot to reopen the government?
Well, I think the shutdown has really, as Joe said so well, crystallized for Americans the fight around health care and who's for making sure that people can afford their health insurance and who's willing to let them pay higher costs. It gives us the opportunity to have a vote on a bill that we will write by mid-December, and Americans will have another chance to see who's on their side and who's not. I hope that our Republican colleagues understand now that this is an issue that affects millions of Americans, and we need to address it. But unfortunately, after 40 days, we've got, as you pointed out, air traffic control that's a mess. We've got government workers who are not getting paid. We've got people who can't get food. We've got mothers and children who can't get their WIC benefits. And so we need to end that suffering.
There it is. We needed to end that suffering. Who ended the suffering? The Democrats who changed their vote. That was how the suffering ended. So it was the Democrats who were imposing the suffering on all of us. And she said, we can't keep people suffering. And so that's the clip. People need to play that clip, isolate it, attack ads, all of that coming up in 2026 and beyond, that was what the Democrats wanted to do. They were ones who were imposing suffering on the public as admitted by Democrat Jeanne Shaheen. So that's the whole point. That is why it's such a big moment. It's such a big moment that this happened. All of that mealy-mouse stuff ahead of time. Their word healthcare, just mark this down. This is their new word democracy, which they'll keep using the word democracy too. But they feel like if they just say healthcare, they score political points the same way they say, well, democracy, democracy, democracy. Even though the Democrats hate democracy, I have a whole chapter on it in Breaking the Law, the Hugh Hewitt endorsed book. They despise it. They rig their own primaries constantly. They don't allow for the Democrat process to play out virtually ever unless they are assured they're going to get victory. But they use the word democracy and they think they get political points. They're just going to keep using the word healthcare to try to get political points as well. And we got to be on guard for that. We got to figure out a way to message around it. But all the stuff that she said that she got from Republicans, that they're going to get a vote on healthcare, it's not true. All of that stuff would have come up anyway. Republicans were completely prepared and are completely prepared to negotiate with Democrats to try to figure out that most Americans get the best healthcare possible. It is a mutually there's mutual interest in that. How to go about it, that'll be up for debate, and we will debate it. I'm sure he will cover it robustly. But the key point in that exchange right there was her saying, I voted to end the suffering imposed by Chuck Schumer because he's afraid he's going to get primaried. And I'll tell you what, I still think he is going to get primaried. I don't think he has avoided major problems, even though he does have the support for the Democrat minority leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, most powerful Democrat in the House. Let's play cut one, Mr. Dwayne.
Some Democrats in your own caucus are suggesting Schumer is ineffective as Senate Democratic leader and should be replaced. You, of course, are critical of this deal. Do you view him as effective, and should he keep the job?
Yes and yes.
Ooh, that's a robust yes. He is effective. But why would he go out on that limb? Because I feel like a lot of the knives are going to come out for Schumer now. They're going to scapegoat him, and I think a lot of the Democrats are going to put the knife in him. I think, figuratively speaking. Let's play cut two.
And so House Democrats and Senate Democrats have been fighting hard to address the Republican health care crisis and to lower the high cost of living for everyday Americans in the United States of America. Because
just a quick tip, Dwayne. This is something I do with my children whenever I feel like I can't get their attention. What I will do is I start speaking in staccato language while I move my hands at the exact moment I start a new phrase.
Hey, it worked for Obama.
It absolutely did. It absolutely did.
So Timo Obama, he's got a copy of the master.
And I'll tell you, it sticks in your brain. When you see it, you think, wow, like I got to watch this. This is just mesmerizing. It's hypnotic to see it.
It worked for William Shatner.
It really did work for Shatner. that was I had made that connection, but that's exactly what he was doing.
He always talked like this.
Right, always.
To be dramatic.
That's it. So he's got it. And he's got the hand gestures too. This is a whole new thing in the hyper-visual age where everything is on camera, is that you have to keep the visual presentation in mind constantly. And the hand movements, it's just a whole new art. We got the Sanders going back and forth. But Trump is he's the best at it. He's the one, he moves his hands in a way that does compel you. But Newsom, a lot of people make fun of Newsom because he does these very strange hand gestures. Those of you who are not watching the streams or on Salem News Channel, you're missing a lot of my dramatic interpretation of all this. But let's play some more audio.
America is too expensive. And far too many people are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. They can't thrive. They can barely survive. And that's why Democrats have been waging this fight. And we'll continue to wage this fight. No matter what comes over to us from the United States Senate to the House of Representatives at some point this week. Our position as House Democrats has been crystal clear. We will sit down with any Republicans, anytime, any place, anywhere, in order to find a bipartisan path forward, but we're not down with their my way or the highway approach to government.
All right, so he says Democrats are all voting no on whatever comes their way. Let's see if that's true. Mark that one down as well. Let's see if he keeps his entire conference together and united on this. I don't think he will. I think, and Dwayne agrees with me, I think there's going to be some real caving that goes on the Democrat side. We'll be back with Senator Cotton. This is the Hugh Hewitt Show with Alex Marlow. All right, Marlow in for Hewitt. Under the Obama and Biden administrations, regulators pressured banks to close accounts for industries and individuals they didn't like. This politically motivated debanking trampled on the freedoms of American businesses and citizens, putting government in the business of punishing people who disagree with. It's still going on. Melania Trump just reported she got debanked this year. Thankfully, President Trump has taken divisive action to stop it. His executive order calls out regulators who abuse their power and makes clear that debanking must end once and for all. But lasting reform requires more than one order. It requires Congress to act. That's why Americans for Free Markets is thanking President Trump for standing up for freedom and urging Congress to follow his lead. Together, they can establish a national fair access standard to prevent services from being denied based on political, social, or religious views. This will bring clarity, consistency, and long overdue accountability to financial regulation. To protect the financial freedom of every American, Congress must build on Trump's leadership, update outdated laws, codify his executive orders. Americans for Free Markets is calling on Congress to ensure the abuse of power can never happen again. Learn more at forfreemarkets.org. That's FOR freemarkets.org. Do we have the senator, or do I get to play Harry Sisson first, Dwayne? We're playing Harry Sisson. This is one of the Gen Z Democrats who is highly touted as the voice of a generation and an online troll who is just using to cause all sorts of content for us at Breitbart and Salem. Go ahead.
Well, there you have it. Democrats just caved and bent the knee to Donald Trump and the Republicans. The government has been shut down for 40 days, and one of the main things that Democrats were asking for is an extension of the ACA subsidies so people have affordable health care that they can access. And the Republicans left it out of the bill, and we agreed. We agreed to that. People's premiums were doubling, tripling. And now the agreement is that we hope Republicans vote on it in December, which doesn't even guarantee a vote in the House. It is pathetic. And let me be clear, not every Democrat voted with the Republicans, so I'm going to read the names of the Democratic senators who did. You have Hassan from New Hampshire, Shaheen from New Hampshire, Fetterman, of course, from Pennsylvania, King from Maine, Kane from Virginia, Cortez Masto from Nevada, Rosen from Nevada, and Durbin from Illinois. Republicans are the reason for the shutdown. They're the reason that healthcare prices are going to skyrocket for over 20 million Americans, but Democrats just allowed them to do it. We allowed them. We bent the knee. We caved. It is pathetic.
No, it is wonderful, Harry. He's fired up. How many takes do you think that was? Dwayne, do you think he's got a filter on? I'm guessing you're not my resident TikTok guy. But
I am not all about the TikToks, but
it feels like a filter though. Like
that wasn't a one take.
That was not a one take, and he's got the jawline going. I know he's a young guy and he stays in good shape, but it does feel like I don't know. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical that's the real Harry there. But that's exactly the content that we need, and I'm wondering, they think that they can win some sort of a civil war where woke makes a comeback and the hard left is able to be ascendant again in the Democrat Party. But they really need people to stand up and say this was actually reasonable, that all this stuff was asked and answered by the American people in November of 2024. And they decided they're going to give the Republicans both Congresses and the presidency, and the Republicans were virtually just extending Biden-level spending for a few more weeks so more negotiations could take place. They might end up being pretty reasonable on health care. I mean, there are people who are clearly not, I would say, a hardcore right-wing on some of these issues. J.D. Vance might be one of those people. You might be able to broker something meaningful, but instead you burn out all the goodwill amongst yourselves. You burn out goodwill with Republicans. And what do you get in return? You got nothing. You got absolutely nothing in return other than a bunch of content for shows like ours. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful that Democrats did totally bend the knee, and to get that commentary from the great Harry Sisson, who I always look to for my political commentary. That's exactly the type of spokesperson that I think the Democrats need and they deserve. And we're happy to have him. Okay, let's see what else we like. Don Lemon, another selfie video. Don Lemon, cut 27, please.
Look, don't let him spin you. The Democrats caved. People have been asking me, what Democrats caved? I want to know. We need to know. Okay, so these are the Democrats who voted to cave to the Republicans. 8 Democratic senators are Dick Durbin, Maggie Hassan, Angus King, Catherine Cortez Masto, Tim Kaine, Jean Shaheen, Jackie Rosen, and John Fetterman. They joined the 52 Republicans in this procedural vote to reopen the government without a guaranteed extension of health care subsidies. Just a promise to pick it up and maybe vote on it in December. Come on now.
It's just, why couldn't we have a live studio audience today, guys? I mean, this stuff is it's just hilarious. Every last clip puts a smile on your face. Seth Moulton, who's one of the least insane Democrats in Washington, which isn't saying much, he calls on Chuck Schumer to go. This is not a radical guy. Let's play cut 33, please.
Yeah, and do you think that need for a change in leadership would also extend to Chuck Schumer if you were elected to the Senate? Yes. Would you want to see? Okay. And yeah,
no, I'm not going to run on a new generation of leadership platform here in Massachusetts and then go down to Washington and vote for the status quo. And so I've been very public about that. Again, respect his service, but time to move on. Mm-hmm. And my opponent has not. He keeps dodging the question.
Yeah. So Democrats shut down the government for 40 days and 40 nights, asked for basically nothing. No one knew exactly what they wanted. They got literally nothing other than a bunch of content for us on social media. And then the call is we're going to replace Schumer. So who do we replace Schumer with? Do you think he's thinking someone that is more moderate, maybe someone who's an outside-the-box thinker, maybe someone who could bring something new to the table? So, or is he thinking someone more radical left? AOC replaces Chuck Schumer in the Senate. Then who knows who assumes the leadership role? And we're certainly not going to get a new type of Democrat. Yeah, do we want to bring the senator in because we got 2 minutes in? Okay. The Senator Cotton's here, so we're going to dive in with him. Senator, it's great to have you on the Hugh Hewitt Show. It's been too long. It's nice to speak with you. And I just want to get your sense of what the thinking was, any surprises, why this thing wrapped up finally last night.
Well, Alex, first off, let me just apologize for getting to you late. I'm sorry about that, but we're engaged in the end game here to try to get the government reopen so people can get back to work and get paychecks and get their food stamp benefits and stop worrying about their flights being canceled. I think the real world pain has just started to accumulate, Alex. The president has done his best to try to insulate the American people from those hardships. But ultimately, you just start running out of money. You start running out of legal authority. People get exhausted. You've seen that at air traffic control towers around the country. You've got working moms out there who are struggling to buy food for their families because the food stamp money has run out at the Department of Agriculture. And a handful of Democrats have finally said that they're willing to take the slings and arrows from their left-wing base and go forward to fund the government. And frankly, Alex, there's a lot more than 8 that wanted to do this, but most of them are afraid to cross their far-left radical base.
Do you think as this plays out, you're going to get more Democrats peeling off, particularly on the House side?
I doubt it, Alex. I think we're probably 60-40 last night. I was just in some conversations earlier, which is why I'm running behind. But I think we're going to be able to move this out of the Senate in the next few hours, and hopefully Speaker Johnson can pass it on Wednesday. But it's hard to see many Democrats over there. I mean, the House minority is always the most partisan of all the parties in Congress. But, as long as we pass it and send it to the president on Wednesday, then that means this senseless shutdown is going to end and the American people can know that their government is getting back to work on their behalf.
So I want to ask you about any of the political machinations that we need to know about in this audience. But also, I played a clip earlier of your colleague, Senator Shaheen, saying she voted to end the suffering. Does that imply that the Democrats are the ones imposing the suffering on the public? Seems like an important moment. I'm going to get your commentary on that, Senator, when we come back on the Hugh Hewitt Show with me, Alex Marlow. Alex Marlow here, host of the Alex Marlow Show, editor of Breitbart News, with Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, one of the most powerful senators in the Senate. Senator, I've got 2 big ones for you. The first one is what I posed before the break, which is the Democrats saying they voted to end the suffering. Does it imply that the last 40 days, when they consistently voted against opening the government, that they were the ones imposing suffering on the public?
How could it imply anything else, Alex? If they're talking about the suffering and the hardship that moms have faced paying for the grocery bills without their monthly food stamp check, if they're talking about the hardship that air traffic controllers are facing, continually going to work without being paid, with colleagues calling in sick, putting more strain on them and therefore on the system, what hardships are they talking about? And who's caused the shutdowns? The Democrats who voted 15 times to keep the government closed. And what have they gotten from it, Alex? They've gotten nothing.
Zero.
Nothing that we weren't happy to provide on September 30th. They want to have a debate about health care? We'll have a debate about health care. Obamacare has made health care unaffordable. That's why people are seeing double-digit increases in their premiums, not because the Biden-Obamacare COVID bonuses are expiring. It's because of Obamacare and its failed structure. That's why the price of health insurance has been going up for 14 years in America. But they got nothing out of this failed 6-week government shutdown other than imposing all those hardships on the American people. I'm glad that few have come to their senses and are willing to stand up to their radical left wing. I commend them for that. 3 of them did so all along. I commend them as well. But I hope that many more Democrats will realize this is no way to govern. They shouldn't be shutting down the government, taking hostage all of those paychecks, all of those benefits, the public services the people reasonably expect for their tax dollars the next time we have a government funding deadline.
All right, Senator. So you teased the other big question, which is about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. And I want to just get a sense of what the nature of the debate is, because the Democrats that caved, saying they saved face by getting a commitment from you guys to discuss health care costs, which I think you would have anyway. I think that's pretty obvious, but that's what they were saying. So what is this nature of the debate that's going to take place? What's really on the table? And can you handicap things for us?
Alex, it'll be nothing more than a normal Senate debate on an issue of timely importance. Many Americans are concerned about their health insurance premium increases, not just the small handful of people who are on the Obamacare exchanges, Alex, but the more than 100 million Americans who get health insurance through their employers as well, because Obamacare imposed lots of needless regulations on those plans that are driving up the price of health insurance for Americans who get it on the job, not who get it through Obamacare. Just to give you one simple example, Alex, I mean, Obamacare imposes a basket of required coverages on all insurance plans. But the American people have very different needs. Your needs are very different when you're in your 20s and single, when you're in your 30s and 40s and you have young kids in the house, and when you're, say, in your 60s and older and you're an empty nester. Why shouldn't Americans be able to shop for the health insurance that fits their needs? That's what we do with car insurance. That's what we do with home insurance. That's what we should do with health insurance. So we're happy to have that debate next month, probably after Thanksgiving. We'll let the Democrats have a vote on whatever kind of big government statist-like system they want to run. But the solution here is not to keep throwing hundreds of billions of dollars in subsidies to insurance companies to fix Obamacare's problems. The solution is to fix our healthcare system.
Right. And so this is what's tricky here, and it connects with the other major conversation of the last week, which is with affordability, is that the task for folks like you in the Senate and in elected office and people like me in media is that the left is what caused the affordability crisis, and yet they're proposing more of what they've done as a solution. The same thing's going to be with healthcare. A lot of the reason why healthcare is so expensive, it's gotten exponentially more expensive since Obamacare became the law of the land, and their solution is going to be essentially more Obamacare, ramp up something similar. And so we're going to have to outmessage them on this. Where do we begin?
Well, I think one is just to remind the American people that Obamacare is a failure. Ironically, it's called formally the Affordable Care Act, but it's made health care unaffordable. Again, not just for those people on the exchanges, but for anyone who gets private health insurance on the job as well. And there are some pretty simple things that we can do to help bring down the price of health insurance, like allowing people to put more money into a health savings account, allowing them to get the kind of insurance that fits their needs. You know, young single people or older empty nesters probably don't need, for instance, OBGYN coverage. That's different if you're a young married couple and you're planning on having kids. There's lots of things we can do, common sense solutions that's going to help people buy the insurance that they need at their stage of life that is affordable for them, that doesn't require more regulation and more spending from Washington, D.C.
Senator, I got 20 seconds. What's next on the agenda for you now that we're getting the government open?
Well, we're hopefully going to pass some of those year-long funding bills so we don't allow the Democrats to take the government hostage again. And then, of course, the annual defense bill is coming down the pike as well to make sure that we're taking care of our troops, getting them not just the pay that they lost this last 6 weeks, but the training, the weapons, the equipment they need to defend our nation.
Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, well done in the 20 seconds. That guy can count as well. Thanks, Senator. Alex Marlow back on the Hugh Hewitt Show after this. We're back on the Hewitt Show. Alex Marlow in for Hugh. Vic Mattis is my next guest from the Washington Free Beacon, Weekend and Culture editor there and co-host of the Getting Hammered podcast with Mary Catherine Ham. Now, Vic, what's funny is that the first time I ever met Mary Catherine was over a decade ago when she was visiting my neck of the woods out here in the greater LA area to host for Hugh Hewitt. And that was where I met her first. Super charming individual, as everyone knows, who has a television over the last 15 years. But you're a fun guy, Vic, and I like this because this is a fun day. What is your reaction to, as Dwayne was telling during the break, this is his melting chocolate bunnies day for the left?
Yes. Hello, Alex. Thank you for having me on the show and for guest hosting today, doing a great job. It's great because you get to see them say, well, once again, the Democrats are snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. And they're very upset because they wanted to have this discussion about the impending blue wave and the rise and the ascendancy in some places of socialism and how it's going to become much more acceptable and this great mandate for change. And surely, you know, this was an uncomfortable time for Republicans to reckon with. Obviously, you have Virginia, you have New Jersey, New York City to a lesser extent, but decisive wins for Democrats and having to reckon with that and what that means as we get to 2026. And suddenly, 7 very brave Democrats, I'll call them, and one bold independent decided to say, you know what, enough with the shutdown. The election's over. We got what we wanted. Let's have a deal now because, in fact, the pressure is too much. With the airports and federal workers, folks like Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, they've got to be feeling the heat. But of course, as you know, Alex, when a Republican breaks ranks like John McCain, he's considered a renegade standing on principle. And when the Democrats do it, it's a great betrayal.
This is an interesting point that you make, which is that they frame this, and I haven't thought about this in years, which is that they frame it so that if Republicans change our mind, we're very noble. And if they change their mind, they're heretics, even though they weren't really asking for anything. And all of them acknowledge that there's all this suffering going on. And then these 8 brave individuals alleviate us of the suffering. And yet they're the bad guys if you listen to younger Gen Z left-wing commentators today.
Yeah, that's right. If you look at the commentators, the mainstream media at large, the New York Times had a great headline that arrived in my inbox that said the Democrats were winning the shutdown argument. What happened? And they sounded so sad. And certainly those who are thinking about their presidential prospects in 2028, they're jumping on that bandwagon too. So Ro Khanna openly saying Chuck Schumer has to go, the Senate Minority Leader. And California Governor Gavin Newsom had one word, pathetic. So they're clearly going to exploit this for their own personal gain. But as you mentioned, what was the plan? And Angus King pointed this out today. He said, what was your alternative? What was the end game for holding out this long? And what it exposes is Democrats were perfectly fine to play games, certainly with the American people and with SNAP and with federal workers and healthcare because they think this was working to their advantage, and the mainstream obviously sides with them. When Republicans in Congress end up being involved in a shutdown, if they're not in power, they get blamed, and if they are in power, they still get blamed. And it is quite puzzling, as you mentioned, because the Democrats, what they really wanted was, on the one hand, they're saying Republicans pull all the levers. They have the powers of, the legislative branch and the executive branch. And at the same time, all we want them to do is enact our Democratic agenda as if Joe Biden or Kamala Harris were president.
Yes.
And that's absurd. And they're talking about the killing of Obamacare. They're not killing it. They're ending pandemic, subsidies.
Yeah, exactly right, from the pandemic era. No, of course. So where do they go from here? Does Chuck Schumer have a political future? And this is the whole thing that it was so clear to, I think, most of us a month and a half ago, which is they had no end game. They had no exit strategy, to bring back a phrase from yesteryear, that this was kind of probably how it was going to end always. So then what's next for them?
Yeah, it's not actually looking good for the older establishment. As you know, in the House side, Nancy Pelosi, she's retiring. Chuck Schumer, everyone keeps on talking about. They won't let it go. They keep on talking about him getting challenged by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And he's not going to want to face that. I mean, it's going to be their version of what people talk about the Tea Party type reckoning that happened after Obama and having this sort of a cleaning of the House among Republicans. And for Democrats, it's going to be much worse because you have the Abigail Spanberger types on the one hand, and then you have the Zoran Mamdanis on the other. They can't actually coexist. I think, and one is going to want to dominate the other. And I do think that progressives have the edge over here. So, again, even Hakeem Jeffries, they're watching over their shoulders right now. I think they're all worried about getting challenged. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that's exciting and a big opportunity for us, but it is a little scary when they think of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer is not left enough. All right, Vic, I'm going to do something selfish because you wrote a whole book on vodka, how a colorless, odorless, flavorless spirit conquered America. Now, I'm an occasional vodka consumer, and I'll tell you, I've got a pretty good palate. And I want to get your take on gin because I feel like gin is just vodka that was ruined.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one who has this opinion. Everyone, it's very trendy to hate on vodka online. I think, why would you drink gin when you perfectly good vodka and just ruin it with a bunch of botanicals? Like, it's just terrible. But you're the pro. You tell me.
I have to tell you, Alex, the more I researched and wrote about vodka in my book, the less of it I drank. And then I started to discover the other spirits, namely gin. I am now a huge gin person. I don't have a problem. I know. And I don't have a problem with gin drinkers. Some of my best friends are vodka drinkers, I should say. So, no. Derek Brown used to say, if somebody preferred vodka, he would say, "Do you like flavored vodka?" They'd say, "Yes." He goes, "Great. Let me give you this gin." But no, there's nothing wrong. Vodka is the most wonderful mixable spirit. You can put that on anything, and it works wonders. You're not going to put gin in a Bloody Mary. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's. I feel like though gin's the only one that's ruined. I can get behind all the agave spirits. I think mezcal's my favorite, but Scotch, of
That's
course.
great smoking.
American whiskey industry is amazing these days. But I will say that I never understood the gin, and people are very snobbish if you prefer gin to vodka. And you've read a whole book on vodka. So, but are you going to write a sequel? Is gin coming out soon?
No, I'm always tempted because gin is the big thing, and there have been a few books. But I'm telling you, come back to gin. Don't be afraid of it. Don't think about your college years, Alex. Come
All right,
back.
well, we'll have to get together, and you'll have to show me what I've been missing. All right.
Definitely.
Thank you, Dwayne, for indulging me. That was really important. And thank you, Vic Mattis, Getting Hammered podcast with Mary Catherine Ham and his work at the Washington Free Beacon, which I read every day, just about. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Vic. We'll be right back on The Hewitt Show.
Thank you.
Back on The Hewitt Show with Marlowe. Dwayne, are you a big adult beverage guy? I'm guessing no. That's my guess.
No, and it was never really a thing other than I just never liked the taste of it.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot better ways to use your time. But it's nice to, if you take it seriously, you don't want to blow all your calories and all your brain cells on total waste. And it's good to be informed, like our friend Vic. So good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're going to get toasted, Vic's your guy.
Yeah, know what you're doing. Know what you're doing. All right, Consumer Cellular. Let me ask you: have you looked at your cell phone bill lately? How much data are you really using compared to how much you're paying for? And what about those hidden fees, surcharges, and rate increases that just seem to creep up? Be proactive in times of uncertainty. It's time to check your bill and then check out Consumer Cellular, where you truly get savings without sacrifice. It only takes about 20 minutes to switch, and right now you'll get $25 off when you use promo code HUGH25. Just call 1-800-411-4454 or visit consumercellular.com/Hugh. New customers get a $5 credit on their first 5 monthly invoices. And here's something for our 50-plus listeners. 2 unlimited lines for just $60. It's only $30 per line. Unlimited. It's an easy way to better manage your cost of living and cut down on essential expenses. So don't wait. Get real savings without the sacrifice. Use promo code HUGH25 today or call 1-800-411-4454 for Consumer Cellular. Yeah, I feel like where we're going from here with this shutdown debate is we have some real opportunity to be able to share with the American public where the Democrats are at in terms of their delusion and their almost deranged thinking. That they could simultaneously vote to keep the government closed and then blame any of the negative results on Republicans. And now some of them have admitted that's exactly what's going on. It's important to save those clips, snip them, and use them as leverage in the future because we need leverage because they've got these tricks up their sleeves where they just use the word healthcare, they just use the word democracy, and they're able to turn people out. And as they proved last week, their superstructure, their infrastructure, their ability to have AstroTurf, I don't buy their grassroots, but their AstroTurf ability is second to none, and we can always assume that they've got a strong hand until they prove us otherwise. Even in the case of the shutdown, they always had the worst hand. That was very clear. We've seen it in the last couple hours of the show. We've gone through piece of evidence after piece of evidence to suggest that that's the case. But don't underestimate them because they're going to come back. They're going to have a lot of energy. And if they can elect a guy like Jay Jones, then there's no guarantee for what's going to come in the next primary season. We got a historic opportunity here to either lock in a lot of those gains that we all achieve, whichever part of the conservative movement you're a part of in 2024, and lock those in 2026, or we can spend the next 2 years doing all the impeachment nonsense as we watch woke make a comeback. And that is not something I'm interested in. I can tell you, dollars to donuts, Hugh's not interested in it either. Neither are any of our colleagues on the Salem Dial and the Salem News Channel, not even producer Dwayne. Even though Dwayne would like the content. I think there'd be a lot of good content for Dwayne. So he'd be okay. He'd do the best out of all of us. But we're rooting for this country, rooting for America, our constitutional republic. Nothing like it, best it's ever been, but we got to fight for it each and every day. I'm Alex Marlow. This is the Hugh Hewitt Show. If you like what you're hearing, Alex Marlow Show podcast, wherever you get your pods, Breitbart.com for all your news breaking the law. the latest book. We got an hour. Congressman James Comer coming up on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Stick with us.